Well, it's all I know is it's in early development, and I actually have physical evidence of this going into development. I mean, people were trying to debunk it and stuff, but I actually, in my hands, I have the physical. There's documentation that it's in development. All we know is that it's been put into a priority development, and it's this. The documentation is just really early.
Welcome into issue 14 of Comicast Video. Jong Lee here.
With Michael
Thank you guys for tuning in. Today it's a very special issue for you guys. We have Jeremy Conrad of DCEU Mythic, MCU Cosmic, and Star Wars Unity. He's the editor-in-chief of all three of those sites. And he's also a very good friend of the podcast. If you guys want to catch the entire interview, it's on our audio podcast. You can find our audio podcast on every major podcast platform. It's at Comicast. Jeremy, how are you doing?
Not bad.
Jeremy, it's been kind of a crazy year with DC. I mean, it's been a crazy year in general with the coronavirus and COVID. It's weird to say, but did this give them time to kind of restructure and kind of sit down and think about what they wanted to do next?
I think it benefited them more than say Marvel, because just using Marvel as an example, they had a couple movies due out this year, a couple Disney Plus shows due this year, and that kind of threw everything out. The quarantine threw everything out of whack. DC, on the other hand, the only thing they really had big this year was Wonder Woman. Everything else they're working on is farther out, so that gives them a little bit more freedom and ability to start, talking about these things, because it's not something that is necessarily going to be delayed this year. The only thing they're filming this year was the Batman, which sounds like it's probably going to start up in September again. So they have a lot more leeway, so to speak. So they can say, hey, we're doing this. That's why they're going to do that big, giant fandom event, because it gives them a chance to do a Marvel-style slate reveal. And there's apparently going to be 2 secret movies there.
With the Flashpoint movie coming out and Michael Keaton reprising his role as his Batman, do you expect Michael Keaton to be the new Batman going forward in the DCEU? Because I think everything's kind of connected. Or do you expect them to recast a new Batman? What's going to happen with the DCEU going forward?
What I understand from what it sounds like, and Keaton has actually signed on. They have a backup plan in case he doesn't. The Keaton thing is from the newest script for the Flash. There's been, 4, 5, multiple scripts for the Flash. Yeah. The most recent one is Christina Hodgson script. She wrote Birds of Prey. She's writing the Batgirl movie. The Keaton idea comes from that, is to bringing back a older Batman from one of the previous movies. If it's not Keaton, I don't think they could get him. They would go for Bell or something. They can't go for Val Kilmer, and of course Clooney would never do it. But the idea is that he would come. It would be a soft reboot, so to speak. So then he would be in the regular DC extended universe, and the idea is, I guess, he's going to be like the Nick Fury, where he'll pop up in other movies, and he'll appear in the Batgirl movie, and if they're doing Batman Beyond, he'll be in that. And then, like, if they do Batman Beyond, that Batman could be the new Batman in the DC extended universe, because they'll still have the Reeves other universe going on with. That's, I guess, supposed to be a trilogy. So they'll have those Batman movies, where in this one where it's all like the Justice League and everything, they'll have old Bruce Wayne leading it to kind of like in Kingdom Come, and they've done like artwork for Keaton already, because they have the script done. They've done artwork and probably to show him. His costume apparently looks a lot like the Kingdom Come Batman costume. So it's that idea where it's an older Batman putting together a younger team, so to speak.
And Jeremy, the live action Zatanna movie that's in the works, that's real early in development, right? I mean, we're not going to be seeing that for a while, or could we expect to see that sooner?
It could maybe be one of the 2 secret ones. They were talking about it 2 years ago. They were talking about doing it back when they were Warner Brothers was talking about doing Batgirl, Supergirl, and Zatanna. Now we know Batgirl's still happening. Supergirl, it sounds like it might be on the back burner because of the Cavill and the JJ Superman gossip stuff. Right. Zatanna then would make a lot of sense. She is so popular. I mean, when that came out that they're they started developing on it, people just went nuts because they want to see her in a movie in live action again, because she was in Smallville, and she's been in all the animated stuff, but they want to see her on the big screen. That could be one of the two secret ones, but my suspicion right now is it could be tied to that Justice League Dark on HBO Max.
And I don't want to go for a stretch, but whenever we talk about Justice League Dark and any other of these entities, can we assume that they'll be, I guess, connected to the main universe, or should we kind of go under the impression that they'll kind of be on their own, just kind of like the Matt Reeves movies?
I'm not sure. I think what they're trying to do, this is just me blue sky speculation. I think one of the reasons they're going to do a soft reboot with The Flash is because they just gave J.J. Abrams $500 million to make movies with Warner Brothers, and they kind of want to give him a not a clean slate, but a better slate to work on if he wants to do these. If he wants to bring like those Justice League Dark characters into the regular universe, he kind of has a fresh piece of paper to work on with a soft reboot with Flashpoint. So then he can then go and do his own Justice League. He could do Bad Robot could then have their own little superhero universe that is still. If I had to guess, the only two members of the current Justice League that we know of who will stick around would be Gal and Jason. Both of their movies are huge successes. Aquaman made $1 billion. Those two would for sure stick around, but then we would probably might see possibly a new Flash, a new Superman, and then other characters come in because we'll have maybe Shazam in the Justice League and that sort of thing.
Well, do you think this will work out for them? Because, I mean, if they're going to go into different directions, I mean, of course, we'll still consume every movie that they'll try to give us. I guess having so many, more questions to understand who will be connected to what. Let's say if J.J. Abrams does decide to do his own Justice League, but let's just say the Zack Snyder cut actually does pretty well and people have a really big positive viewing of that. So, like, does DC kind of have, like, maybe, I guess, I don't really know how to put it, but could they go in all these directions that they really wanted to? Or is this kind of a thing where they kind of have to kind of just measure it out in the future?
I think they finally have a plan of what they want to do. They really like, from what I understand, they really like Christina Hodgson and the scripts that she's been writing for them. So it sounds like they're going to have maybe their own Kevin Feige, perhaps with her like writing stuff and JJ producing and overseeing stuff. They would have their own Kevin Feige. And it sounds like they have a plan, which is starting with this Flashpoint and bringing back Keaton. That's the start of it. And then from there, they have a plan of where things will spread out and go. Now, in terms of the Snyder Cut, I think that's more, again, it's more of a HBO Max thing, just needing a big marquee thing to draw subscribers. And that's, closure for those people. So those fans get to see the Snyder Cut. It's closure for that universe before they move on to, handing the reins to JJ, if that happens.
Jeremy, I got a question about Ezra Miller. There's been a little bit of rumors about him regarding if he's going to continue as a Flash. The incident in Iceland didn't necessarily help, where he kind of, choke slammed a woman, I guess you would say. There's been a lot of delays, not necessarily his fault, but there seems to be some sort of problem with Ezra. Do you think they continue to use him as the Flash going forward?
I can't say for sure, but there's been some rumors and chatter that things might not still be over in regards to that. So I'd say it's probably a 50-50 chance right now that he continues to be the Flash. They might find someone else. I remember there was talk back. He did a script for the Flash with Grant Morrison. And the talk was back then when that happened, this was even before he chokeslammed that person, that if they liked the script, they would go with that and he would remain the Flash. If they didn't, then they might get someone else's Flash and do a different script. They're doing a different script now. So we haven't heard anything about them finding a different Flash, but we know that at one point they were casting a new Iris West. They had Iris West in the Snyder Cut. It was Kiersey Clemens, but there was a casting grid that went out where they were looking for a new Iris West. So it's possible they could be also looking for a new Flash. We just don't know yet. But I personally think it's still up in the air. It could go either way, and it's probably a 50-50 chance that we're still see Ezra as a Flash. I know a lot of fans don't want to see him because he chokeslammed that person, but we'll just have to hold on. There might even be other stuff involving him coming out in the future. We don't know.
So Jeremy, this is kind of just more of curious for me what you think. Obviously Michael Keaton is back for this Flashpoint movie. From you, and there doesn't have to be any rumors attached to anybody, but curious from your perspective is if there's anybody from a previous DC film that you would like to see brought back, kind of in the same way that they're bringing back Michael Keaton. And if there is anybody, what capacity would you like them to be brought in?
Well, Michelle Pfeiffer is over, I think it was last summer, she posted on her Instagram that she still has her whip. And Catwoman, she, was alive at the end of Batman Returns. I even though she's in Marvel, and people have this weird thing that if you do Marvel, you can't do DC. They have no rule about one or, doing the other. It's because like Keaton will still be, Vulture in the Spider-Man movies. So even though Michelle Pfeiffer is in the Ant-Man movies, I'd still like to see her come back and be, as Selena Kyle again. That'd be awesome, especially if we're getting Michael Keaton back. And not so much a person. I mean, there's been rumors. I don't even know. I have no idea where they got this from, or if they're just making it up. But there was a rumor that if they do a Batman Beyond movie, Burton could come back and do it. I would love to see that happen. Let him do one more Batman movie with Keaton, a third movie, 35 years later. That would be awesome.
Now, I know you reported on this not too long ago, but what's going on with this Justice League Rebirth?
Well, it's all I know is it's in early development, and I actually have physical evidence of this going into development. I mean, people were trying to debunk it and stuff, but I actually, in my hands, I have the physical. There's documentation that it's in development. All we know is that it's been put into a priority development, and the documentation is just really early. It's just saying this is in development. Here's who's producing it on the studio side. Of course, it lists Walter Hamada. There's another executive that's listed as a producer on there. On the production side, it lists Jeff Johns is producing it. It says they are interested in Hodson to write it, and they have been in discussions with JJ about it. Now, that doesn't mean that JJ would necessarily direct it, but they're talking to him about all their DC stuff. So it's something they have talked to him about. But makes a lot of sense that they would do that. Like I talked about, they would want to give him a clean slate, and it would make a lot of sense for JJ if he would to do that, to do Justice League, because if it is some kind of like a reboot or rebirth, he did that with Star Trek, he did that with Star Wars, and Justice League is the type of franchise that Warner Brothers would want to take to the Avengers level. And if anyone could actually do that, it's JJ.
Jeremy, do you think there's any validity to whenever you hear actors coming out and saying they wanted to be casted for a certain role? Because I feel like, hey, shit, I want to be Batman Beyond. Like, can I go out and say that? But you have guys like Ross Butler, he wants to be Batman Beyond. Also, Diane Guerrero, she wants to be Jessica Cruz. Do you think whenever actors come out and say these things, do you believe that possibly they might know something that, maybe it's a direction that DC is trying to go to? So maybe they do need a Jessica Cruz or need a Batman Beyond or Terry McGinnis, you know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of times they read the internet like everyone, and they see rumors posted and they're like, hey, I'd like to be that character. And they're like putting their name out to like shoot their shot and say, hey, but on the subject of Jessica Cruz, I'd love to see her as Jessica Cruz. I love her crazy Jane, so she'd be great as Jessica Cruz. But I think the rumor about Green Lantern, so there's been a lot of Green Lantern stuff going on over the years. There was going to be that Green Lantern Corps movie, and the rumor in that was it was going to be an older Hal Jordan training John Stewart. And the rumor was Hal died in that movie. That's why the rumor is that Tom Cruise turned it down, because he didn't want to die in the movie. Who knows what the HBO Max show is going to be about, but it could be something similar. It could be more of the Green Lantern Corps. And then they could do Jessica Cruz. I mean, it seems like DC wants to do, they have so many lanterns to use, even though they kind of killed off Guy Gardner recently in a little story they did.
You don't get a Guy Gardner driven show. That I'm fine.
Oh yeah, Guy Gardner would be awesome, but they just killed him in the comic. They did a comic where they're looking at a grave and they're looking at Guy's grave. I'm like, oh come on.
Speaking of the Green Lantern Corps, where are we with that show? It seems like Jeff Johns has been working on that thing for a damn decade. I know he's been busy with other projects, but are we going to get that soon?
I think it might have been a combination of both him working on those DC Universe shows, which are great. I mean, he's involved with Titans, Doom Patrol, and of course Stargirl. All three of those are great shows. I think it's focusing on that as well as maybe them not being sure if they want to do Green Lantern Corps in a movie right away, especially because of that whole situation that happened with Tom Cruise. And then instead focusing on the HBO Max show before going back to Green Lantern Corps. But we did get Aquaman, which was a movie of Jeff Johns' New 52 run of Aquaman. It condensed all of his New 52 run into one movie. So we kind of got Johns in that way. So if he doesn't do Green Lantern Corps right away, that's fine.
Do you think Jared Leto comes back as Joker? Because I feel like if they're going to be continuing this DCEU on this route, that you're going to have to eventually need a Joker in the DCEU. Does he come back?
I think if Reeves does a Joker, he will do his own Joker. I know if we get the Ayer cut, and this is the thing between the Ayer cut and the Snyder cut, the Ayer cut is done pretty much. They test screened that version of Suicide Squad. The only thing that's not done is there's just some rough effects shots that need to be polished up. I mean, they could get the Ayer cut done for a fraction of the cost they're spending on the Snyder cut, and they could put that up this year on HBO Max if they were to do that. And there is a lot more Joker in that. There's a whole. I know someone who went to one of the test screenings for it. There's a whole fight sequence in the subway between the Joker and the Suicide Squad. So there's a lot more Leto Joker. And if you see the Ayer cut, if you see what he was trying to do with the Joker, it was actually a good Joker. People really blame Ayer too much for the version of that movie we got because they gave it to a trailer house to chop it up and turn it into what we saw in theaters. That wasn't really his fault. That was Warner Brothers meddling, which the people who do that are long gone. We saw that Birds of Prey that did not even happen with Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey, actually, they did reshoots, and the reshoots improved it because what they did is they brought in the director of John Wick uncredited to do the action scenes and reshoots, and that benefited the movie greatly. So Warner Brothers is beyond doing what they used to do. So if we were to see maybe if the Suicide Squad does really well, and we get characters from that spun off again, we might maybe see Leto come back, but who knows? I mean, I wouldn't mind. I don't care. I mean, I liked his Joker because I liked the idea of his, that grill on his teeth being he has that because Batman punched his teeth out.
So is there a real possibility that this David Ayer cut of Suicide Squad actually comes out at some point?
I know Ayer really wants it, and like I said, it would not cost him anything to do. It's done. I mean, they showed it to the public. The public saw it. And what happened? They did the test screening. So they showed Ayer's cut. And it's much closer to the tone of that Comic-Con trailer. They showed his cut. And then what they did is they took his cut that they test screened. And then they hired a trailer house to chop it up and try to make it Guardians of the Galaxy. And those two versions competed against among the executives who decided to do it. And they picked the Guardians of the Galaxy version over his version. And his was, like I said, almost done. It just needed some effects polishing.
Why?
And those people aren't there anymore, so I have no idea. They got the golden parachute and jumped out the window.
So, Jeremy, I think it's been debunked at this point, but I got to ask for our listeners, Ben Affleck's not coming back as Batman, right?
I feel so sorry for him because it's almost like fans are wanting him, fans are like, he's like, okay, I'm done with Batman, and the fans are like, screw you, be Batman, with a gun to his head.
Right.
I mean, he did a great interview. When The Way Back came out earlier, right before the pandemic, he did that movie. It's about like a alcoholic basketball coach, and it was a very movie that hit home for him because he became an alcoholic because of Batman. And he said it's like, the movies came at a time in his life when he was just losing interest. He had a chance to do a Batman movie, but he's not interested in those stories anymore. And he said he's going to go see Roberts because he thinks it's going to be great. The guy, if you look at him now, he's in the best shape of his life. He's dating Ana de Armas. I mean, he's happy. He doesn't want to go back to a role that ruined his life. And these people want him to. So no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But what that's coming from is there's so many sites out there after the Snyder Cut thing. They're saying the Snyder fans, that side of fandom, very excited and just hungry for information. So people are just making up complete BS for attention with them. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, because I remember there's the site that originated that Ben Affleck thing. We're saying it was going to be announced at Fandom, and we're going to see, the Ben Affleck show on HBO Max. Well, a couple days ago, they just announced a Batman show on HBO Max, and that's nothing to do with Affleck. So, yeah, the truth will come out about that, but it's just extremely frustrating because no matter what you say and say, no, that's not true, Affleck's done, he's happy, let him be happy. These people just want to force him to be Batman.
How crazy are you expecting DC fandom?
It's going to apparently be pretty crazy. I mean, just for the Suicide Squad alone, that's the first time we're going to probably learn 100% who everyone's playing. There's people, you can look at the costumes and figure out who so-and-so is, but that's a huge cast. So we're probably going to finally learn, who's playing King Shark, because he's in the script. Who's playing Knight and all that and stuff like that. We'll learn stuff like that. We might see concept art of Black Adam, because that was originally going to start filming in August. Pandemic probably delayed that a little bit, but we might see concept art from Black Adam. We're going to see new footage of Wonder Woman, because there's going to be a new trailer when Inception hits theaters. We're going to learn what some of the movies are doing. We're going to learn more about The Flash. There's going to be a panel for The Flash movie. So it's going to be a pretty fun 24 hours from what I can tell.
And that's been Jeremy Conrad. He is the editor-in-chief and founder of DCEU Mythic, MCU Cosmic, and Star Wars Unity. He's on Twitter. He's at Manabyte. Jeremy, thank you so much for having or coming on with us. And you've been a very good friend of the podcast. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
And that has been issue 14 of Comicast Video. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, hit that little button down there.
Slap it now.
Ding, 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 ding. You can always follow us on Twitter. I'm at One Punch.
I'm at Producer Mike 975.
And you can follow Jeremy on Twitter. He's at Manabyte. And also you can follow David Ramon on Twitter. He's at Gacho Dominguez. And thank you guys. You can hear the rest of this interview on our audio portion of the podcast. It's at Comicast, and you can find it on every major podcast platform. So thank you guys so much. Until next time.
See ya.